everyone, I'm Elaine. Welcome to my channel, A Handful of Daisies DIY. On my channel, we upcycle items that I find at yard sales, flea markets, thrift stores, and sometimes we just build new things. So if that's something you're interested in, I hope you'll hit that subscribe button and join our DIY family. Also, if you hit that notification bell, you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much for supporting my channel. I hope you are finding inspiration in the projects that we've done so far. So in this week's video is part 2 in preparing for the Spring Craft Show. If you saw part 1, last week's video, you saw we put together signed blanks to get them ready to stencil. So in today's video, we're going to take all those sign blanks and we're going to create the finished signs. So if you're ready, let's get started. So I cut out all of the stencils and the decals to get prepared to build our signs. So we're going to get started first of all with a decal. So I'm just going to show you how easy it is to weed out the decals. These are the 3 by 24 inch signs. Now these signs were spray painted, so the decals will stick really well. So I just weeded out all the vinyl away from the letters, and then I'm going to take transfer tape and put over that. Since the boards were so small, it was pretty easy to line them up. I made the decals fit on the sign pretty tight. So I'm just going to use my little card to make sure it's adhered to the board really well. And then just peel away the transfer tape. And it's really quick and easy and makes a beautiful sign. Now I'm using a lot of different applications. I wanted to show you the different types of applications that you could use. The first one was a decal. This one is using stencil material. So we're going to paint this one, and I'm weeding out the letters. I had already put this on the transfer tape. You can weed out the letters before you put it on the transfer tape. I didn't do it on this one. I was in such a hurry trying to get all of them cut out. So I used my Silhouette Cameo 4 to cut these out. And if you'd like to see a video on how I use my Silhouette and how I make the stencils and decals, leave me a comment below and I'll do a video on that as well. So I'm just going to pull the transfer tape back. I'm going to go ahead and do that on each one just to prepare them before I get started on the painting. All of these items are for the craft show, but this is a typical day of filling orders. If you're interested in any of the signs or decals or stencils that you see in today's video, I will have them up on my website. That link will be below. They should be up by the end of the week. I do offer custom-made decals and stencils as well, so if there's something you're looking for, let me know. You can send me an email or just go on my website and select custom, and you'll be able to add what you're looking for in the notes. I am just going to show you a few of these. I'm not going to make you set through. Oh, I have 10 of these 3.5 by 24s. Some of them I have just added decals to, and then the others will be painting using the stencils. Here are a couple more of the decals. And like I said, these are so easy to apply. So if you're wanting to make a sign that you don't want to have to paint, decals are the way to go. And you can get the decals in different colors. From the signs today, I'm just using white and black, but I do have a lot of other colors in the vinyl. And this is permanent vinyl, so it's not going to peel up on you. But if you wanted a little more protection, you can add a top coat to this as well. Either a spray top coat, or you can use Mod Podge. And like I said, I cut these to fit the sign perfectly, so it's a whole lot easier. You don't have to measure it. So another kind of application that I use sometimes, it's a lot cheaper than using the vinyl or using the stencil material. I do use contact paper that I pick up at either Dollar Tree or Walmart, and you can cut that out as well. And it works just as well as the stencil material does. Sometimes even better because the stencil material has a really sticky backing on it, and the contact paper is not as sticky, so it's easier to peel up. Now on this one sign, I had a hard time getting my U to fit properly, so I did cut that off and move it around a little bit. So you just want to make sure that you have it adhered to your surface really well. So use that card to scrape it down. And then I usually smooth it out with my hand as well. This is just another decal. This is the black one. Again, it's permanent vinyl. Now we're going to move on to the 5.5 by 24 inch. And the stencil that I'm using for this one, I found this vinyl at the Goodwill, believe it or not. So I paid $1 for a whole roll of this vinyl. It is a glossy vinyl, and that's not something I normally use, so I thought it would be perfect to use as stencils. You never know what you'll find at the Goodwill. And again, on this one, I'm using contact paper. I'm just going to get all these stencils ready. So once we start painting, I can just go ahead and get them all painted at one time. I do have 7 of these boards. I'm not going to bore you with showing you the same stenciling process over and over again. Just really wanted to show you all the different types of applications you can use. And now we're going to get started painting. I'm using Waverly chalk paint in ink, which is a really deep black. And I started by using a stencil brush, but I found quickly I didn't like this brush, so I changed over to this sponge dabber. And you can pick these up at Dollar Tree, a pack of 2 or 3 for $1. And they really work the best. So you just want to make sure you have enough paint on your sponge, but you don't want it to be overly full because it may get down in between. It may get underneath your stencil. And I'm dabbing it, but I'm dabbing it lightly, just enough to put the paint on. That way it won't bleed through. So on this one, I just wanted to show you, I'm pulling this one off while the paint is still wet. And it makes a mess. So I had to keep wiping my hands just to make sure I didn't get the black paint on the board. So I'll show you on the other boards how I dry it first, and it's so much easier to pull the stencil. So on the next one, I just wanted to show you, I went ahead and painted that one, but I wanted to show you how I'm using the hairdryer to just dry that up. And it's so much easier to pull that stencil off without getting paint everywhere. And some people do use heat guns to dry their boards. I find that the hairdryer works just as well. And I picked up that hairdryer at the Goodwill as well. It was $3. So it's worked for me really well. So we're going to do the same thing to the board with the contact paper. Now, if you don't do this all the time, a good tip is to just put your first coat on your stencil using the same color as your background. That way it'll keep your paint from bleeding. And if your paint does bleed a little bit, you can go back and touch it up. I don't know if you can see on the boards or not, but when I pulled the stencil up, it did pull a little of the paint off, and I'm okay with that because it just gives it a little character, I think. If you don't want that to happen, you can put a top coat on your chalk paint on the board before you put your stencil down, and that'll help it not pull that paint up. Now we're going to move to the smaller ones. These are the 3.5 by 24. Now these boards were spray painted, so when I pull the stencil up on these, the paint won't come up. I'm going to dry this one as well. And I'm just going to use my little tool that I picked this up at Dollar Tree as well for $1, and it works really well. It has a really good point on it to pull up the insides of those letters. And because it's spray painted, if you do get any paint where you don't want it, you can take a baby wipe and wipe it off before it sets in really well. Now we're going to move to the larger signs. These are 12 by 24. I have 7 of these. The very first one I am going to use a stencil on, and then the other 6 we're going to put decals on. Now I made this stencil out of vinyl, and the reason I did is because at first I was going to use it as a decal, and then I decided I wanted to paint it. So I just pulled the lettering out instead of pulling all the background out. So as you can see, how I lay these stencils down in the larger ones to make sure that you get them where you want them, I just cut off one piece of the backing and lay it in, and then adhere that down to the board, and then lay the rest of it down. That just makes it a whole lot easier to make sure you're getting it centered. I'm just going to pull the transfer tape off and then just smooth it down really well. And I decided I wanted to do this in blue, and the only blue I had was apple barrel. I don't typically use a lot of the apple barrel paint. It is an acrylic paint. I do prefer the chalk paint. It just works really well. Now this blue is called Admiral Blue, and when it goes on, it looks pretty bright, but once it dries, it darkens a lot, almost to a navy. So again, I'm just using enough paint on my sponge just to get it on the board, not an excessive amount, and I'm not using a lot of pressure on my dabber. So once I finished putting the paint on, I did take my hair dryer and dry it as well. But once I did, I remembered that using apple barrel paint, the acrylic paint, you shouldn't dry it first, because when you do, it pulls up the paint with the stencil, and you'll see in a minute what happens. So I wanted to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Not all projects come out exactly how you want them to. Most of them you can fix, and we're going to fix this one. So as you can see, a lot of the letters are missing. The paint is just not very consistent, and it looks like a hot mess. But again, that's okay. We're going to fix it. We're just going to use a small paintbrush and go in and fix those letters. I did like how the blue turned out on this sign. I have one just like this in my main bathroom, and it's blue as well. You can see I'm just taking a really fine paintbrush, and I'm just going to fix all the letters. And I'll show you at the end how that turns out. So next we're going to put the decals on the other 6 12 by 24 signs. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to peel back just one piece on the end and cut that off. And then I'm going to set it in place exactly where I want it. And then smooth that down. Once that's smoothed down, then I'm just going to peel back the rest and then just smooth it out. Now on a couple of my letters, the transfer tape did bunch them up a little bit. That's easy to fix as well. I'm just going to take my little tool and smooth those out. And sometimes those little letters, you have to keep going over them a little bit just to make sure they're adhered to your board really well. So you're just going to peel it back really slow. And how great does that look? We're going to do the same thing on the next one. Get it in place where you want it and then smooth it down. So here's a look at how all the signs turned out. Let me know what you think and which one's your favorite. And remember, all of these signs will be available on my website by the end of the week. You can also get the decals or the stencils for any of these signs as well. On next week's video, I'm going to be staging what my booth will look like for the craft show. So make sure you don't miss out on that video as well. I also made 2 larger signs. They were 12 by 24, but they were too large for me to film. So you can see those here. Thanks so much for watching today. I hope you'll hit that subscribe button and notification bell if you're not already subscribed so you don't miss out on my next videos. And if you're already subscribed, thanks so much for supporting my channel.